router, OSPF comes up, right?
OSPF comes up.
So IP OSPF neighbor, and here we go, we have it.
Yeah.
Okay? Is it amazing? Is it nice? It works like magic, right? But it's not.
Okay.
That's just to show that, okay, with a simple program written on Python and integrating all those components, the SDN controller, the OpenStack, and even the physical router, you can achieve something like this. Okay? Who wants to have this all-in-one VM? Okay. Don't worry, it's available for free, but again, it's not from Cisco. So if you need this VM, you need to see him after the session, right, to copy from his hard drive. Okay, but it's available, and he will provide some kind of support, right?
Yeah. Yeah, okay, thanks.
Thank you for the demo. Okay. By the way, he has 2 CCIEs, routing, switching, and service provider. And when he wanted to take the third one, I said, no, it's better to write Python program for this. Let's map the all-in-one VM into the SDN&NFV architecture. So the VMs on KVMs, that the virtual compute and the virtual network is the mininet plus the OpenV switch, right? And the dynamics to simulate the physical network. Then that's the virtual router, the open source virtual router is the VNF. Then we have this combination of Open Daylight, OpenStack, and the network managers, the Python script, to become the Vim and PIM, virtual infrastructure manager and physical infrastructure manager, because with this demo, we demonstrate that the network manager is configuring the physical router as well, the R1, right? And that's the web portal. So this is just an example. And once you have this all-in-one VM, by the way, you can build this yourself if you want, right? All of these resources are available. If you want, yeah, just download all these components and start building it yourself. However, the reason why I brought up this in this session is, look, this one is available for free. It's community-based, right? You can take it, you can modify it. He will give you the source code, right? It's available. So look at the source code, look at how he integrates the OVS with the OpenFlow mininet, with the Dynamips, and then you can continue using it to learn something else, like why don't you create other use cases, okay? Why don't you create the use case where you also need to push SEL or KOS configuration, or use different type of configuration in OpenStack. Let's use Neutron with floating IP, or change the OpenFlow controller. You don't like Open Daylight? Okay. Replace the ODL with Floodlight, Beacon, Ryu, and so on. And instead of using SSH from the network manager to the physical router, the R1, why don't you use something else, like netconf, right? So have it as a base for you. Then later on, start developing your skill, customizing something. At least you have something to start with, right? Okay. Now, we reach the last section of this session, which is the SDN and NFV skill development planning. Many might say, if you want to learn about SDN, why don't you just work in SDN and NFV projects, right? That's the best way to do it. I agree, fine, but not all of us are that lucky, right, to have a SDN and NFV projects that we can just join. This is like catch-22 situation. How can I join SDN project if I don't have the skills? And how can I develop the skills if I cannot join the SDN projects? So that's why I created this skill development planning from 0 to hero in 10 steps. And as disclaimer again, this is based on my personal experience transforming from solution architect for IP MPLS and NGN to SDN and NFV the past 2 years. There is no endorsement from Cisco. There is no endorsement from CCIE program, right? And I hope you will find it useful. But before we start, let's check what the CCIE think about themselves now. Are you guys still relevant? What do you think, guys? All the CCIEs in the room. Do you think your skills are still relevant? According to them, 57% said, yeah, we are still relevant. okay? And check out this. Almost everybody believe that they can adapt to SDN and NFV. So be positive, guys. Look at them, right? Everybody said, yeah, we can adapt to SDN and NFV just fine. We are the CCIEs. We were the kings of networking. Okay? So let's start with the steps. Step one. Step one, you have to begin with end in mind. Okay? What kind of roles you want to fill up in any SDN and NFV projects? I'm showing here example of typical roles in SDN projects. We usually have solution architect to design the end-to-end solution, and we have the engineer to implement the solution. We also have the solution developer. It could be the programmer of the software. It could be someone who needs to customize the code based on the customer requirement, right? And we also need someone to run the solution after we're done with the project. So in step one, you look at typical SDN project and said, okay, which role you want to fill up? Some of you may say, okay, I want to become the one who developed the solution. I want to become the one that write the code, for example. That's fine, okay? And let's say in step one, you said, okay, I decided to become a solution architect for Cisco VMS, the virtual managed services, because it looks interesting. I want to become a solution architect for that solution, right? So in step two, once you decided, in step two, you need to break it down. You need to know what makes the solution. And you have seen this Cisco Virtual Managed Services, VMS, there are so many moving parts on this. You can see this, right? And it's a combination between open source products and Cisco products. The NSO, yeah, that's Cisco, okay? Elastic Controller, Cisco. OpenStack, that's open. The Linux KVM, that's Linux, right? The protocols, they are all open protocols, okay? Even the CPE need to connect using a plug-and-play protocol, so it's zero-touch deployment, right? Starting from the web portal all the way until the VNFs and the end customer. There are so many moving parts. You need to understand what are those components, what are the APIs, how they interact between each other. You are the solution architect. So you need to know this, right? In step three, you need to start doing what I call self-assessment. Okay, so you know what the components are in the solution, you know what kind of technologies, what kind of protocols. Let's assess yourself, right? How good are you today to understand your current gap? Okay? Do this self-assessment. And in step four, define the target performance. So I created this, what I call SDN and NFV baseline skills. It follows the T-shape, okay? The big red eye here in the middle, that's still the networking skills. You still need in-depth networking skills to work with SDN and NFV. I have seen this, right? For you to understand how the virtual network can connect, create a service chain, and so on, you still need this in-depth networking knowledge for the NFVI, for the VNF. And that knowledge can be from routing switching track, from the service provider, from data center, or from security. Then you have to add the SDN NFV base skills, like the network virtualization, VXLAN, BGP, VPN, for example, for data center virtualization, the OS, compute, Linux, and Linux virtualization, the KVM, hypervisor, ESXi, the virtual infrastructure manager, OpenStack, overlay and SDN controller, pick one, start with ODL, or maybe you want to go directly to ACI, right? The service orchestration and life cycle, how you orchestrate the whole service and manage the life cycle of the VNFs. Then the scripting, programming API, DevOps. Then last but not least is the solution architecture itself, how the system connect between each other, perform the whole system integration. Okay? Now the question is, are you going to be an expert in every boxes? The answer is it depends. It depends on the role that you decided to pick up, right? If you want to become the engineers who write the software, then your focus will be somewhere in that scripting, programming, API, and so on. If you decided to become the solution architect, then okay, you put more focus on the solution architecture, right? But you still need to know the other parts of the component. And the top is the industry standard. But this is normal, right? This is what we do. You need to understand the IETF, RFC, and so on. This is not new, right? We read RFC during lunchtime, right? This is nothing. We are all CCIEs here, okay? And step 5, when you create the strategy in your learning, you can use this 3 traversal from computer science, that either you go deep into one specific technology first, or you go broad to learn many things, but without going deep first, okay? I will share my own experience in here. In my case, I went deep with networking, specifically in routing, switching, service provider, and security, got multiple CCIEs, right, and CCDE with this. Then I went with compute, learning more about Linux operating system. Then now going deep with SDN and NFV. So which one is better? Going deep first or going broad first? The answer again, it depends. Maybe in your current role, you are asked to be an expert in one subject, but maybe you have to know many things but not too deep at the same time, right? So it really depends, but start thinking about the strategy, how you're gonna build the plan. And then you can create the actual learning path. So you have seen this full stack of SDN and NFV that I created, this blue triangle, from underlay all the way until the business outcomes on the top, okay? If you are a solution architect, my recommendation, and this is my personal recommendation, right? You should use a top-down approach. So you start from what kind of business problem you are going to solve. And then you start looking at what kind of use case can be used to solve that problem. Then going down to how you consume the service, then go to the menu and orchestrator, and so on. But if you are an engineer, you should use a bottom-up approach. So start from physical networking, then go to the virtual networking, right? The virtual infrastructure manager with OpenStack, SDN controller, all the way up. Now, step 7, if you learn something new, you need to get the feedback to know how far have you reached, right? And one of the feedback mechanism is to take certification exam. Let's stay away from the debate that why we need certification in SDN. Okay, let's stay away from that debate. The way I look at it, the certification exam is good to measure your progress, and that's it, okay? So Cisco has this specialization program in SDN, and they are integrating SDN topics into the certification program from CCNA all the way to CCIE. You need to check with them regarding this, and I didn't take this specialization program, so I don't know, I cannot give you any input. Or you can go with ONF. ONF recently released this Certified SDN Associate and Certified SDN Engineer. I took the first exam, because this is the only one available right now. I took it last week. It was 40 questions within 60 minutes that you can do at home, and they're focusing more into OpenFlow and the ONF as an organization, right? That's like $150 or $170, but you can do it at home, okay? Or you can take from some other part, right? Like in our open community, the SDN Warriors, we create a learning path how to become SDN Warrior that has 10 levels. I'm just showing 5 levels here. So it's up to you. My point here is try to find something that can give you feedback to measure how far have you reached in your learning. Then step 8, it seems obvious, right? You need to have access to all this information, the internet, the Cisco live recording, the online forum, the practice lab. And step 9, you need to make the learning as a habit, okay? So, yeah, we're all busy, right? In today's economy, if you are not busy, then you should be worried, right? So, we are all busy, but if you want to learn this SDN and NFV, you need to make time, and you can start slowly. So, start like right after Cisco Live, when you go back home next week, let's do 30 minutes a day. Spend 30 minutes outside your daily job to read something about SDN. Maybe reviewing Cisco Live materials. Maybe read SDX Central or whatever. Just spend 30 minutes. That's not hard, right? And then slowly grow this number to 1 hour a day. After a few weeks, become 1.5 hours, 2 hours a day. You need to make it as a habit. Okay, the first step is difficult, but after that, will become a habit, and you can even get addicted to it. Okay? I promise you that. Then the last step is, all right, guys, what are you waiting for, right? I mean, you have know the path now. What you need to do now is to start. This presentation have showing you that, okay, from beginning we know the market is real. Those are the SDN technologies. What kind of skills needed, and it's real. People can do this automation. Even in front of you, you've seen this happening. So I know the way now. I need to build a plan. Then I need to start. Start now, start today. Okay? And you have to believe that it can be done, right? So now, I got these questions from many people, especially the managers, right? They ask, okay, so how much investment required to transform my engineers to become SDN expert? Okay, how much investment to make someone a Kungfu master, right? And that's a tough question. Then I said, let's just estimate the time investment, okay? How much time investment is required to transform legacy network engineer to SDN NFV capable? In my opinion, it's 20%. 20% is like 1 day a week or 4 or 5 days a month. And let's see how we can use this 20% investment to transform legacy network engineer to SDN and NFV hero within 6 to 8 months. You start minimum from CCNP level. If you are CCIE, great. I will tell you why. Because CCIEs are used with this complexity already. Okay? There's nothing new here. It's just some new technologies, but we know that it's complex, and we have seen this in the previous technology. So, but at minimum, you need to start as CCNP. Then the first month, go and learn about network and data center virtualization. Pick one. Either you go directly and learn SCI for 4 or 5 days, or you might want to go and learn VXLAN with EVPN. It's up to you. Just pick one, right? And then go back to work, obviously. Second month, learn something else, Linux, right? Linux for network engineers. So we don't expect you to become a Linux power user or Linux admin, but at least since many of these components, as you have seen in the demo, they are running on Linux. So you need to know at least. You need to have certain skill in Linux. Third month, go with OpenStack. That's the open source Vim. You can have it, you can download it, you can even play with this in IO, right? The fourth month is a Python programming. Okay, it's not necessary that every CCIE need to become a software developer. No, right? But what's important is when you learn Python programming, okay, you will learn about how the software development lifecycle works. You will learn about API, how to consume the API provided by one controller, for example. You will learn about how to use Git as a repository for the code, and so on, okay? So at least learn some basic programming, and we said it's Python because, well, OpenStack is written in Python, okay? And it's considered one of the easiest language to learn for beginner, right? But it's up to you, just pick one. And fifth month, DevOps and network automation. So after 6 months, you can start learning the use case itself in detail, okay? So I believe this timeline is realistic. What do you think? It's like 20%, 4 or 5 days per month. Within 6 months, you become the hero, okay? Hey, but let's ask the CCIEs, right? These are the 2 questions that I asked to the CCIEs. What do you think, guys? How do you think is the best way to transform? They said, the best way to transform to SDN NFV, one is on-the-job training, yes, for sure, right? And then self-study with the home lab, yeah, use the all-in-one PM to self-study at home, okay? Take intensive bootcamp, yes, if it's available. But that's the tricky part, right? Take multiple trainings. At least now you know there are several components, then you can take individual training for that, okay? And attend SDN and NFV events. You are in one of the events, right? You are at Cisco Live. So you are making this progress. But then I asked them, what do you think, guys? How much time investment is required for CCIEs to transform to SDN and NFV? My answer was very generous, right? According to CCIEs, they need at least 30%. And some of them even said, oh, I need 100% of time investment to transform to SDN and NFV. Okay? So, my last slide, just like what Peter Drucker said, we must become the CEO of our own career. Don't wait until you get assigned to SDN and NFV projects. You need to be prepared because it's happening, right? It's no longer hype. It's happening whether you like it or not. So be prepared, build the strategy, make plan, and execute your plan. Start developing your SDN and NFV skills. So hopefully, someday I will see you standing here in front of everybody and start sharing your own experience, transforming your skill to SDN and NFV. I hope it was useful. Thank you very much, and enjoy Cisco Live.